find your lack of faith disturbing.
But great men are made by other great men. Patton had Rommel. Grant had Lee. Hate this place. This zoo, this prison, this reality, whatever you want to call it.
Hey, all, welcome to the FNG Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about antagonists and villains and whether they're the same and whether they're not the same. So we all have different opinions on this. So how you guys doing today?
Woohoo!
Yeah,
Can't
I'm doing
complain.
good, man.
Good to hear from you guys. It's, it's always fun. We talk a little bit before we jump on here, and the conversation always goes multiple different directions. And we've been talking the last couple of days about villains, about antagonists, and about the way that you kind of what it does to your story. And so I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say on this, and how you build your antagonists, and how you build your kind of your speed bumps into your stories. Anybody want to start off and just kind of give some explanation on kind of how you do it?
So I'll jump in because I'm a new guy and didn't actually understand the full process of an antagonist and their incredible role they play. So the Zentari are my antagonists, right? But it's a species. And I realized pretty quickly, I need characters.
Yeah.
So my main antagonist arose out of the deaths of the other two in book 2. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and what I learned is the more interesting I make my antagonists, and the more, but as well as more relatable as I can make them, was key. Like I didn't want to have just because like the race, and they're a super powerful made race of beings that have technology, or giants and powerful beings. So yeah, they can literally walk across Earth to kill everybody. But then we got a technological advantage. So now there's a bit more, now we got to talk a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And there's dialogue. And now you see the people coming up who actually run this show. And it's more than just a bunch of bloodthirsty, revenge-seeking monsters trying to destroy everything that this race ever touched. And when I started the book, I did not think of that. So when you brought this up about villains, Brent, I thought, yeah, this is a perfect thing to do, because like I'm sure Will and you yourself will agree, your antagonist can make or break your story.
Absolutely. And what you pointed out was kind of key. Like you said, the Zentari, right, were your antagonists. Well, that's an antagonist in the abstract. Mm-hmm. That is in the established background, who the bad guys are. But like you said,
right,
you really need to key in on individuals. And how do you do that? Well, I look at the antagonist as being just as important as the main character. In terms of having to develop them. In my mind, you have your main character that you're going to end up developing the most, probably by virtue of them being the main character. But secondary to that, you want to make sure that your antagonist, which is not necessarily a villain, we'll get to that, is equally well developed, because like you said, you want them to be relatable somehow, or maybe redeemable, but you need to have layers of interest to them, perhaps a flaw. I always try to introduce a flaw.
Well, if you don't, because correct me if I'm wrong, I probably am, because it happens sometimes. Your character, Jimmy, right? When he goes to selection, even though he's the hero, if you will, of the book, he is also an antagonist when he shows up there, because he disrupts the normal. He's not your normal recruit in that field.
That's fair to say.
So it's just, and the reason why I just point that out is your antagonist, like you said, is not necessarily your villain, but it's also something that can disrupt your story or even take your story in a direction that is different from other stories. Like again, with Jimmy going into selection, where he really had no real purpose of going in, except that a certain amount of circumstances made it a good idea for this guy to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, and so as I've been thinking about antagonists and all that, I kind of started thinking about positive characters, like my character Kane when he came to Earth and said, all right, here's what's going to happen. He disrupted their apple cart. He was their antagonist, even though he's also their hero. So it's not always just about the villain of the story as well.
Right. Well, for example, when my main character was going through Special Forces selection, he had a guy in his team that he was stuck with that at first he did not like. And they didn't get along, and the guy was a jerk and created tension in their group. So he was an antagonist initially as Gary pees in the toilet.
I
I'm
was
not
thinking the
peeing.
same thing.
I'm topping up my coffee.
Yeah, sure you are.
Yeah, you're not peeing under the desk or nothing.
That depends. Get it? Depends. I'll be here all week. Try the veal. I just flew in from
Nice.
Winnipeg. Boy, are my arms tired.
I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, so this character was the antagonist during this section of the story. So later on, he evolves because I wanted him to be a dynamic character, and that's important.
Mhm.
You want your antagonist to be a dynamic character, and my definition of a dynamic versus a static character is a character that has the capacity to evolve
Yeah.
somehow, who can
Absolutely.
either adapt to a new norm or learns new things or applies new lessons to the situation. Not someone who is just like, for example, book 2 of my Nomad series, that antagonist or that villain, who was one and the same, was very
Mhm.
static, and that's very unusual for me to do. But I
Yeah.
leaned into him being static because sometimes there's a time and place for it. Because the antagonist in the first book was much more dynamic. I wanted a static character that was someone that you could say, okay, I hate this guy for a reason, and I
Yeah.
just want to hate
Yeah.
him. That's what I was going with. But I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go for a static character unless you're experienced and know how to execute it. If I was you, I would stick to the dynamic, because not only are you more likely to get a better result, better reader satisfaction, but you can explore with it. You can do lots of things, and it opens up a lot of opportunities.
There's a huge difference between the Terminator in Terminator 1, right? Who ultimately has a redeeming arc that happens across those movies, and the cop metal Terminator, the Terminator 3000, whatever he was called, who is just this
T2000
who is just this, like, he is
or
not stopping
T1000.
no matter what, that, like, he is just an immovable object that is going to, bulldoze his way through whatever it is to accomplish his goal. And or the Darth Vader, right? You watch Darth Vader in book 1, and Darth Vader is just this ominous presence that happens in Star Wars, and there's no arc for Darth Vader in book 1. But as the movies progress, Darth Vader gets a redeeming arc, and he becomes this character that you're like, I'm kind of rooting for this guy. And maybe it's not the same kind of arc that your main character has, but it's an arc that either feeds into that main character's arc themselves, right? So it's another thread that builds into that, or it maybe heads a different direction. But you're exactly right, Will. If you just have this static, obstacle that they constantly have to overcome, it can almost become repetitive in a story, right? Where you're just like, okay, this is the 74th time that they've fought this guy, and he still is just, there's no way that they can get past this. It makes it a little frustrating sometimes.
Well, and the reason why I rolled the dice and selected a static character is because I was still evolving the character from I was still evolving the antagonist from book 1. And I wanted to show the contrast. So I did that for a reason. I didn't do it just for the sake of having him static. I did that because I wanted one to look redeemable, and I wanted one to look menacing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't want to try to develop two characters at the same time and confuse the reader. I
No,
just
for
wanted
sure.
to let the depth be the way it was.
Well, because if you also look at the Darth Vader reference too, Brent, he wasn't actually the villain.
True.
No, if
True.
anything, he was the victim.
He was a victim. And reality was, even though poor writing, as far as I'm concerned, because I love Star Wars, but I hated the writing. It went full circle, right? His whole thing was to bring balance to the Force, and he did do that. What the 3 later movies did was just destroy all that which, although I enjoyed the movies, I did not enjoy how it took away from what Vader brought to not only the cinematic universe, but as a character as well, because he was so clever and evil, but it was just a really well done. But what I liked most about him was his goal wasn't just to, like, this is Zentari. Their goal is to destroy the worlds, right? They're just, that's how they're created. But what I like about, like, Vader, even Thanos, Magneto, all these, they didn't want to destroy the world. They wanted to make the world better in a way that they felt was better, but in the way a majority of people would consider evil.
Yeah.
And, like, let's face it, it's 2026. We've all driven in heavy traffic. We've talked to some really ridiculous people. Haven't we all thought Thanos was right? It was just the wrong 50% that went away.
Have you guys seen the video of it's the 2 Germans talking and the guy goes, "Are we the baddies?"
Like, why is his skull doing on Hugo Boss uniforms?
Yeah, I love that guy, the comedian there.
Yeah.
He actually has a British show called not Mozart, but one of the class, it's named after that. And his twin brother's a cop, goes missing. So, and this guy makes crosswords for a living, like he's a genius. So he ends up taking his brother's place in the police and finds, like, how easy it is to solve murders. And it's really kind of like the same mindset.
That's hilarious.
I think it is called Mozart. I'll find it and tell you guys later. But that guy is hilarious. But are we the baddies?
But that actually brings up a really good point, in that at some point we choose the view that we want our book to take on what's positive and what's negative, right? So many times our antagonists could be told from a different point of view. Star Wars could have been done from the view of the Empire, where all we're trying to do is bring a little bit of peace and normality to this universe that has slavery and all of these horrible, rebels that are out here rebel rousing and causing all these problems. All I am is Darth Vader, just trying to bring a little bit of sunshine to the world, and you could tell the story from that perspective at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, in reality, the Empire did bring the unemployment rate of Alderaan but down to 0.
That's very true. Yeah. And I'm sorry for the Star Wars references. It's just one of those things that I just always kind of go to, I guess.
But think about how many jobs were created in the creation of the Death Stars.
Yeah.
And there was millions of personnel stationed on the Death Star, and the sad part that they don't tell you is that their families were with them when it blew up.
I'm just going to say it, okay? Palpatine tried to make the Empire great again. Okay.
It's the greatest Death Star, best one we've ever
it's
made.
The biggest.
It's the biggest Death Star. We'll have UFC fights.
250th anniversary.
Look at this big green laser.
I left a little hole. They said, Palpatine, should you have this hole here? And I said, listen, it's just a tiny hole. There's no way they're going to get that hole.
Small hole, smaller than a womp rat.
Hey, so we've talked about a couple different aspects of this. Who is your guys' definitive antagonist or villain that is, like, when you think of, like, a villain, or you think of a someone who's the biggest stumbling block in your story? Who is it? Like, what immediately pops into your head? You guys have
me.
one?
I'm the biggest stumbling block.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because here's the thing with my writing, maybe it's because I'm still so new at it, but I have yet to write my Darth Vader or my Joker or my Hans Gruber. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't made a single person the villain yet
Gotcha.
in my writing, right? So, well, I guess in Project Threshold, Fracture Point I have, and that was a learning curve. So the next one of that, I'm going to have a more focused, like I talked to you guys about that already, a more focused enemy personality to deal with. Because
do you pull from individual like movies that you've watched or books that you've read? Do you pull threads from people that you make your villains up into?
So the main villain that I'm going to have in my next book, and I know I told you what it's going to be about, so you might find this even a bit more funnier, is I actually want to use a little bit of Hans Gruber in there.
What a great villain.
Because what did he do perfectly, right? Like he was able to isolate McClane's isolation. He exploited it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He used it to his advantage. Where in Project Threshold, this is about a ship that's literally lost in interdimensional space and keeps going into different dimensions. So they are isolated, and this villain's going to use that mindset to make them even feel more isolated and smaller, and almost to the point where, do we just leave? There's nothing we can do to help you, or do we push on, right? So I find a villain can teach you more if done right than the hero can. Like, look at the Joker, all of them. Like Heath Ledger was the best Joker, Jack Nicholson the second best, right? Like both of those guys brought a different
Well, we
level.
can argue that point.
You'd lose. But only reason I can't say Jack Nicholson is the best is because I've seen too many of his movies where I see him in different aspects, where Heath Ledger was kind of like not really known to me when I saw him.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw his portrayal, I was like, damn, that's a good Joker. I didn't realize he was the same guy in that Night movie there. Right?
In my opinion, when it comes to the cinematic version of Batman, Jack Nicholson is the ultimate antagonist. But when it comes to the lore accurate Joker, then Heath Ledger gets it.
Yeah.
I also found I'm not a fan of comic book style movies, and I found the first Batman movies very comic bookish. I liked the realism that like the Dark Knight did. Like for example, in Batman, when the Joker like dies or whatever, and they have a bag of laughs, that bugged me for some reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just little things like that.
Yeah, it bugged me because they never did anything with that. They panned in and and it was.
But Jack Nicholson
okay.
got the savagery out of him, though. That was for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I gotta say that. Now with that, so for you two, because you guys are like big time writers, how would you feel is the best way to compare your villain or antagonist with your hero? Like, should they be night and day, or there should be like yin and yang, or what do you feel works better?
I think that there's something to be said for, you can definitely have that, right? Where you have this almost a line between the two, and they're both heading in separate directions. But I think I think it's harder for a reader to really jump from from one perspective to another sometimes. Where sometimes when you have two characters that are kind of on a parallel path, maybe diverging or maybe crossing, it can be easier, right? And so, have you guys watched the movie The Postman with?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
But I saw it when it came out.
Yeah, I've read the book. I love the book. And Kevin Costner, I think he did that book a service, right? It's not the same as the book. It's its own movie. But I loved the variance between his character and the General Bethlehem character, right? And General Bethlehem was like, I think in the movie he was he a copy repairman? Is that what he was before?
I think he was like a history teacher or something. I can't remember, but it was something very humble.
Yeah. But I look at that and it's like you have
We
one
see
guy.
Will's Antagonists going
I
on
know
right now.
he has something going in the corner.
Does he know what we're talking about, Will?
No, he can't hear. He's just over here having a freaking time.
But the
That's
General
hilarious.
Bethlehem character is a guy who he took in all the variables that had happened in the
Mhm.
world and how it was all going to hell in a handbasket. And he said, I can fix this. And it might not be the ultimate outcome that people wanted, but it was like, I can take this and I can feed these people and at least give them a home to kind of make this stuff happen. It's not a great place to be. It's, feudal society, it's whatever. And so you have this guy who's trying to kind of like, dig himself out of the hole, right?
Mhm.
Not in a way that I think any of us would be happy with, but it is the way it is. And then you have the postman character who's it kind of a charlatan, right? I mean, he's working his was like, I'm gonna get whatever I can, and if I just pretend I'm a postman and I'm bringing these people mail and whatever, maybe they'll feed me, maybe I'll get laid, maybe what all these things happen to him. So there's part of me that kind of identifies with the General Bethlehem character a little bit, where it's like, here's a guy who put a system in place, not a great system, but put a system in place and is trying to make things better in his own way. And then you have Kevin Costner's character.
It's wrong, but you understand it.
Exactly. But you have Kevin Costner's character who kind of falls into, things actually making things better, and people like, just a different way of motivating people to do the thing that they probably should have been doing, to kind of help each other out to begin with.
Right.
To me, that's such an interesting movie because of those two characters and how they are antagonists to one another versus having the one really big bad guy and the one really good guy. I liked that aspect of that movie, and I try to write my villains, I guess you'd call them, or my antagonists, with a little bit of that General Bethlehem in them. They have a reason for what they're doing in the background, right? They're doing what they're doing because they think it's the right thing to do.
Now to throw something at you that I like is what would you guys say the best lower level villains are? Like the boss you need to get to the next thing. Like if you want, I'll start. Mine is Agent Smith from The Matrix. He was just a fantastic conformity and words are hard. An inevitability about his character being in the position he was in those movies. I thought that was a great portrayal of a lower level villain because he wasn't a Matrix, but he was great.
And he wasn't overly robotic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you kind of and again, you kind of like some of the things he said, like, yeah, you're not wrong why you hate us,
Yeah.
But it sucks that you hate us.
Well, and he hated them because of their humanness, right? Which is completely antithetical to what his programming was and why he was the way he was. So it was like inherent in him that he hated the human aspects of whatever was going on, which is a really cool dichotomy between those two characters, right?
Well, and it also even goes deeper where the point that he hated them because he exists because of them.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
like that's why he called us viruses and stuff like that. Like everywhere you go, you just,
Yeah.
and that's his reason of being. You can tell he's not happy of who he is or what he is, but he is because of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you got anybody who stands out to you who just like you try to write your bad guys?
I try to do it holistically. Like for example, Battlespace Nomad, the antagonist really had nothing to do with the main character. It was the circumstances that brought them together to face them. And it's not like I did that intentionally. I just did it because I knew that they would be two different individuals that were in two different walks of life. The antagonist or the villain per se. You can call him a villain. He was sorry, I got a house full of kids. They had a sleepover. He is in a different stage of life. He has different motivations, everything is completely different. But they balance each other well because you have this young kid who's going through special forces training, trying to prove himself, going up against a seasoned, grizzled veteran who knows what he's doing. He's a former commando himself, before his society broke down. So he's an existential threat. And but I needed to make him dynamic because the main character was dynamic. I needed to show the progression of both, and I wanted to do it in a balanced way to where the reader saw this progression. And it turns out his big weakness, because every villain's got to have a weakness, is his daughter. His love for his daughter is the only thing that could affect or sway his path or change his priorities. And I wanted to leverage that vulnerability into his arc of motivation to where he's got this higher cause, but then he also lost his wife to the cause. And the only thing he has left is his daughter, and his daughter, not with his blessing, followed in those footsteps. And he's constantly trying to protect her.
Yeah.
So that's
a great
his
point.
big shtick.
And that's a great point to bring up, Will, because nothing worse than a unemotional villain. You know, like your villain needs to leave scars. They need to affect the world that they're in. That's why they're a villain. You know what I mean? Like for the Xanthari, like their basic reason for doing what they're doing is they felt so betrayed, and because they're a created race and not a race that evolved, they're literally having a galactic temper tantrum because they don't know any better. They're literally, it'd be like having a pen of wolves, only feeding them bunnies, and then being surprised that they won't eat anything but bunnies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I wanted to really focus, like, so that's one thing I hate when people like do that, but I also hate when they make it normal kind of every day. Oh, they kill the hero's best friend, or they destroy DC, you know, or something. That I like what your character did was it was so much more personal, like selling soldiers into slavery, like the thought of that, you know, and that brought me right back to my rules of engagement and everything for when we were going to Afghanistan, because we were told because under Geneva, you will treat injured combatants as if they were your own. And then in the same thing, we're also being told now, if you're captured by them, they will rape you, they will torture you, they will do this. Right. So when you were your character, Will, it was like, yeah, you know, the good guys will catch him. He'll be fed. He'll be taken care of. But if he catches you, he's going to sell you into slavery and use that money to buy weapons to keep killing your friends.
Yeah.
That to me has more of an impact than I'm going to destroy the world. You know, like having the Xanthari in my books use human shields to me was far more powerful than having the two armies collide. You know what I mean? So when you're writing your villain, make them a person. Give them a reason why they're a villain, not just
and use
they were
them to
picked on
trigger and garner emotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you should also want your reader to kind of agree with them at times. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, they have to be able to see their
In the very least, they need to logically understand the antagonist's motivation, even if it's abstract. Even if you don't spell it out, you should throw the hints out there or make it transparent.
The main villain, I guess I'd call him, in Outland Stars is a character called Grey Wolf, and he's this guy who came up through the ranks of the core military, and he is not necessarily a bad guy, but he is been ingrained in the system his entire life, and he doesn't see any way to change it. So for him, this is how I survive. This is how I get through my day to day. And I have become ruthless enough to climb the ladder and to get to where I'm at. And so I have to maintain that ruthlessness to, keep on top of the pile is basically what it comes down to. So if he doesn't do that, he knows he's basically going to fail. And so that might not be his core character, but that's the way that he has maintained his life to this point. So for him, he doesn't see any way out. And I think sometimes, like what you're talking about, Gary, where you have to be able to identify with that antagonist. If you're not like, if you don't have a character that someone can at least look at and go, well, I understand why they do what they do, then you're tend to writing that just static cardboard, I got to knock this guy down to get to my next, whatever.
Well, like the best antagonists out there challenge your beliefs. They expose your flaws. They force difficult choices. They make the hero become something different by the end of the story.
Yeah.
Like for example, like if you look at, say, your planet, or say, try not to, I don't want to use anything real and trigger emotion, but when an invading military, look at Germany during World War II, and the only way for the Allies to defeat the Nazis was to literally put a swath of destruction all the way to Berlin. Like the city of Dresden, right? Like if you want to talk to any of those people about that attack, you can't. They were all killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a necessary evil. You stop an unnecessary evil. Even though it could be argued that death and destruction caused to end it was far worse than the death and destruction caused by it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the morality of the other side was just not something you knew it would spread and it would go on, and it was the right choice to make. Lots of people had to die. So where I'm going with that is, so the heroes of the World War II were not the same at the end as they were in the beginning, because I don't think they ever thought they'd be authorizing missions that would literally wipe out major civilian populations.
Yeah.
The things that had to be done to defeat that enemy had to change them. And
dropping the sun twice on a country is probably not where we thought we were in the beginning of 42 or 42, whatever it was, when we were just starting to build up. But at the end of the war, we're like,
about the amount. But if you think about when you guys bombed Japan, you warned Japan. The emperor said, no, F you, whatever. You bombed a city and he still didn't back down. So you bombed it again. And that still wasn't enough for them. The people turned against him.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, it just goes to show, but how much does it take for your hero to stop a villain?
Well, that brings up a good point, that there's times that your hero is not going to do the things that they want to do. That they would love the world to be, roses and sunshine, but sometimes they're forced to do things that are not, pleasant maybe for your reader to read. And you've got to do that in a way that shows that your character's growth is, it's not always the and I think we lose this sometimes in modern literature, that sometimes the character is not that the person you want them to be. Muad'Dib in Dune was, at the end of those books, was not the loving, wonderful son that people were looking for. He was a bastard. I mean, he was an absolute, I am out to change the universe to try to, to do something different than what's been done before. And it's just, that's just the way it works sometimes.
Well, and it goes back to the old saying, right? Absolute power corrupts absolute. So, and that's the other thing, right? Like I still remember an edit I got on the new series that I edit was, you're talking genocide. And I'm like, yeah. Like, what, not saying it's right. But again, you always have and that's one thing I find in today's world we lose, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Like if we didn't bomb Germany back to the Stone Age, like we did to end the war, what would the world look like now? You know what I mean? Like today we love to use terms like fascist.
Germany would have a lot of older houses.
Yeah.
True.
But today we like to use terms like fascists and Nazis, like hey pal and friend. What those actually are, because of those decisions, the people saying those words will never actually know what it truly means to live under that. Do you know what I mean? So that's the whole point of a great villain. Like Hitler was a great villain in our history because it did bring together the United Nations. It brought the world together a lot more than we were before. And if you look at how divided we are now, we were even worse before World War II. So they're also, and by that, I'm not calling Hitler.
Unpopular fact, World War II was the actual thing that brought us out of the Great Depression. It wasn't some awesome political program or anything. It all the efforts that the world leaders, to include the Americans, it failed, and it was extremely unfortunate. But it was a true fact that the world power dynamic changed, and changed because it had to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Had no choice. I mean, the industrial base of Europe was bombed out. The U.S. ended up becoming the industrial producer for the modern world. and that's why it rose to prominence. It wasn't because of some grand quest. If anything, the U.S. probably would have liked to go back to being isolationist, but
Mm-hmm.
with the way the world was after the war, that was no longer an option. And that's that could be parallel in your writing too, because like you brought up, the antagonist will change the main character in some way, shape, or form that's lasting and permanent, and you want to capture that. And World War II is just a very abstract example of that.
100%. Like we always forget that it's usually the atrocities that we learn from instead of the positive things. Like it's one of those weird things I find. But yeah, like, so when I write my books, like especially like the Survivors War, it's very grand, right? It's planetary. And so that loss of life and the loss of the risk of it is, do we do everything in our power to save as many as we can, risking the lives of the heroes while fighting, or do we write them off and just go to kill the enemy? Well, everything in my being is no, we will try to save those, and we will also fight the enemy, because that's what makes us better than the enemy. I even put it in my book, but I remember when I was a young sapper, I asked my sergeant, I said, what's the difference between the good guys and the bad guys? We're just talking, and I go, what do you feel that is? And without even skipping a beat, he goes, the good guys stand in front of the civilians, the bad guys stand behind them. And it's our job to make sure the civilians get free of them. And that stayed with me for my entire career. And it's like, and even in today's world where we just kind of like ignore the fact that people are being used as shields, shows how without a huge war or atrocities going on, that we become very accepting of horrible things.
Yeah, that's so
which
true.
is great. Which is also great fuel for writing villains. And like our current day world is not short of villains.
So we've hit on a lot on man. We've covered Nazis, we covered Taliban, we covered right? We covered all the big bads. What's your guys' thoughts on people that do maleficent? I'm going to say it wrong. Malevolent acts that are not necessarily villains, but they end up being villains in the end, right? And I'm talking about specifically for me, Oppum from Saving Private Ryan. That guy, there are no redeeming qualities on that dude. I'd take him out in a heartbeat. Or Jenny from Forrest Gump, or
don't get me started on her.
But these people that you look at the church and you're like, well, they have their own. They are why they are, because of all the things that have gone on in their past or whatever. But they end up being these evil characters that, man, you just hate by the end of the movie or whatever, or or the book. Have you guys written those characters? How do you do that well?
I haven't written it to that level personally. I've written where people have kind of spilled something that wasn't public knowledge that kind of turned people's opinions in a different direction. But I haven't made it who is that guy in Aliens? The guy who talks Sigourney Weaver into going back into space. He's with them.
Oh yeah, the corporate dude.
You could tell he's a slime ball. He wasn't a bad guy, but in the end, he was a bad guy.
Yeah.
But for most of the movie, he was just, okay, he's a slime ball, but he's there because he has to be like everybody else. And then he does that, and you're like, oh yeah, you're dead to me.
No, that's actually a great example. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I don't typically write those, but I'd be interested into pursuing it, because that's always been intriguing to me. Maybe I'm a little bit I'm not cookie cutter with my villains. I'm very deliberate with them.
But you also have to remember too, guys, we have especially our genre. Okay, me and Will, not Brent, because Brent writes to 300,000 words. But we have a certain amount of words per novel that we want to get out.
Yeah.
And if you convolute your story with these mid-level villains too often, you're either exceeding what your word count is, or I worry at my junior level of writing of that taking away from my story. So the junior level of writer that I am kind of not necessarily doing cookie cutter, but I am following the formula. So I personally don't get lost in my own story.
Yeah,
or
I'm right there with you. Go ahead. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that was it.
I was thinking about Chris Kennedy, Kevin Eikenberry, Four Horsemen universe. They have a character in there, and I'm trying to remember what the guy's name was. It was like Corporal Benson or something like that, who was like in logistics, and the guy just keeps screwing up, and like he orders like an entire plane load of something and ships it to the wrong place, and like he causes more hate and discontent, and all of the terrible things that happen in this army are all because this guy just can't get the logistics on the back end squared away, right? And you end up looking at him like, he's truly a villain. That guy he is truly messing stuff up worse than the enemy is, right? And that always, I kind of got a kick out of that, because it was like, here's this dude that like he exists in every organization, right? Every organization has the guy that that can't put the chainsaw back together, right? That puts the chain on backwards. So when you're up on the roof of the burning house and you're trying to like cut through something, it's like, what the hell? Why isn't this chainsaw? Oh, the chain's on backwards, right? Because Jenkins put it on backwards yesterday or whatever. It's those kind of things I think that, kind of to your point, Gary, is like, it's tough to fit that stuff in sometimes, but I love those little nuggets that you can kind of make happen too. That that's not a central point of those Four Horsemen universe, but I love that that's included in there, because it's such a touchstone for really all of the readers that are out there.
But it's also realistic, because the chaos of the battlefield, most people don't realize how much of that chaos is generated internally.
Yes. Yeah.
From a lack of coordination or errors or defects in equipment or logistical, whatever. A lot of that chaos is internal, and you have to capture that if you want to be realistic.
You know who I would love to create a villain that's unfortunately already been created? Remember Inglourious Bastards? Hans Landa. That's what I was typing. I was doing some research because I couldn't remember his name. He was the most likable, pleasant, horrific villain. Like his intellect, his patience, his everything made him such a sinister villain. And as we were talking, I'm like, what was that guy's name? Because like I remember the actor, and he's pretty phenomenal in everything he does. But that character, that villain, was so like, I remember the opening scene where he's having a glass of milk. You know what I mean? Like that's the level of villain I would love to get to someday.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Mr. Roberts with Henry Fonda? It's an old 1940s Navy movie. Do yourself a favor and go watch it. It is one of my favorite movies, and it's about I think he's a lieutenant that gets sent to a supply ship, right? And this is a guy that in the worst way wants to fight in World War II. I mean, he wants a destroyer. He wants to go and do the thing. Like he is just motivated to do this. And he gets sent to this supply ship with a captain that is from the Merchant Marine, who has a chip on his shoulder about just all these Navy men and these college educated, and like he just hates Roberts with every fiber of his being. And so he punishes Roberts and the crew continually just because Roberts exists, right? And turns down every one of his every time he writes something to say, I'd like to get sent to a different ship, he turns it down. Like, because Roberts is a great supply officer and does a good job at his job. He says, well, if Roberts does that, then I get, then I look good. And it makes you hate this guy so much. I mean, he is just such a great villain. And, he never raises a hand to anyone. He never causes, there's no battle scenes. There's nothing in this book other than a bunch of guys that are stuck on this supply ship in the middle of the Pacific that never get leave. They never get to go anywhere. And Mr. Roberts just kind of has to go through and just grind his way through this entire movie. I love the fact that what's the guy? James Cagney, I think, is the captain. And what an awesome character profile of someone that is just an angry, bitter, terrible person who's put in charge of these people. And I want to write a character like that someday. I don't know that I have the chops to write one at the moment, but it's just such a cool.
Date yourself, dude.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I got to write it to get better, right? At some point you write that character bad and then the next book, it gets a little bit better. And the next series, it gets a little bit better. So yeah, I'll write that guy maybe in my next series, but, yeah, it's just,
here's
just
the
a
one
great
then.
one.
So here's a question then for you guys. Who is the funniest villain? Like any movie, any book, comedy, horror, whatever. Who would you consider the funniest villain you've seen? I'll start. Kevin Spacey in Horrible Bosses.
That's a good one.
He
He
was
was awful.
right.
Jennifer Aniston wasn't really much better.
Yeah, but you were okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other guys are like, what? What's the problem?
Right.
I loved
Not like my
Lumbergh
dentist.
in Office Space. I thought he was that was just a great character.
You can still come into work, right?
Yeah.
Right.
See you on Saturday.
Yeah, I just because like one thing I was thinking just as we're talking is like we're going like talking genocide and all this stuff. And I'm like, but there's also funny villains and humorous villains that if you can somehow manage, could you imagine a military sci-fi villain that is kind of like Kevin Spacey's character in Horrible Bosses, just to bring that twistedness but humor to it without taking away the twistedness? Like that to me would be a villain I'd like to write. You
Almost
like him, he's funny.
I like Dark Helmet from Spaceballs.
He's the best. Yes.
Yeah, that's very true. You know, Gary, when you were talking about
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders chicken?
when you were talking about Inglourious Bastards, what's the guy's name? I'm gonna get it wrong.
His real name?
Lufsa
Or the
or
character's
Luxa
name?
or whatever is. I don't know.
Hans Landa is his character.
Hans Landa. Hans
Yeah.
Landa is a character that to me, like if like and this comes through without him ever saying this, but that is a guy that was waiting for a war to happen so he could be the man that he wanted to be, right? Like he reveled in his Nazi uniform. He reveled in catching Jews. He reveled in all that. You could tell like
Christopher Waltz is the actor's
yes,
name.
Christopher Waltz. He was born to do that job, right? Like he was, I'm seeing the guy like he's working in a shoe shop in 1921, right? Like this sucks. This is horrible, right? And then like, oh, the Nazis come around. Oh, I can't wait to be a Nazi, right?
You want some truth to power though on that, Brent? Is before that role for Christopher Waltz, he was a C-list actor.
Really?
They went through person after person after person after person trying to find the right actor to play this person. And he ended up somehow accidentally getting a audition. And Tarantino was like, yeah, you're it. You're the guy. So
no, you're absolutely right. They thought it was a crisis. They thought that the whole movie was going to go down the can because they couldn't find the right antagonist.
Because the words were there, but the way he delivered it was just perfect. Like,
he brought such just love to that character. Like you could tell he was just like, I can't wait to feed more guys into the hopper. Like that's just the energy that he brought to that, and it's such a great character, profile that like. Man, like I want to write that guy someday. I want to be able to like put that character in my book to be like, I want to have the guy who just loves catching pirates or he just loves doing whatever he's doing. And it's such a cool thing.
Well, it's because he's so polite. He's so honest. He's so all this and that, but he's none of those.
He loves whipped cream.
Yep. But everything he makes himself he's not. Like his kindness that he gives is it's a transactional.
Right, totally.
Like as long as you keep talking to him properly and nicely, the conversation will go. But if you don't eventually give him what he wants, he'll shoot you without a second thought.
Yeah,
you'll find your blood splatter on him an inconvenience.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Which makes him even scarier as a human being because you know those people exist. And
most of them are CEOs for hospitals. I think is the way that works.
Well, you know what? They say there's like every CEO is a sociopath.
Yeah.
Because to reach that level of success and be willing to fire people, destroy lives, take over companies, rip them apart, that isn't human nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
At some point, every single one of those people that are at that level said, I can make another $500,000 in a bonus this year if I eliminate these 10 people's jobs and destroy their lives. And they go, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with having another boat and being able to go to the Bahamas for another 2 weeks. If I get rid of, if I basically make sure that these people's kids are never going to go to college. And that's
I
just
think
what they do.
politicians are in the same. I think politicians are generally the same type as well. That mindset, because they will do anything to get into that power position.
DMV
You know, like
workers.
no, I think they were. I think they just did stuff wrong in another life, and that's they're reincarnated to, like Hitler worked at the DMV for 50 years after the war. Like he reincarnated right into like Janice working the front desk. You know, that was his L. Like, but yeah, I find like I saw a great meme the other day about Elon Musk, right? He was like, a man who invented PayPal, helped fund Tesla, started a rocket company, becoming a trillionaire doesn't surprise me. A politician making $174,000 a year, walking out a multimillionaire does.
Yeah, very true.
You know what I mean? And it's because, oh, the politicians are there to help us and all that. Like, was it Nancy Pelosi like made $140 million on just investments?
Yeah, there's an app that you can actually
How are your investments doing, guys?
Well, that's the thing. They made an app where you can just follow Nancy Pelosi's trades. Like if she trades $100,000 with a Tesla, you trade whatever whatever you have in Tesla. And like people are making like 90% on their money, year over year. Like it's just crazy the amount of money that people are making just following Nancy's trades. So, not that she has any insider information or would be doing any backroom deals, but crazy
don't
stuff.
make an accusation.
Yeah.
No, but again, just going back to our villains, like we can find villains in today everywhere, but I find in today's society, what we consider villains aren't really villains. You know what I mean? They're just people we don't like. So that's why I do love our genre specifically, because we get to dump all the current political stuff and all the us versus them stuff and divisiveness and go a couple hundred years in the future where all that's been sorted, and we can just write a good story. That's what I like about our genre and our villains.
Yes, absolutely. Will, you've always got something good for us at the end of this thing. What do you got for us today?
Okay, here's a tip. Download the Nancy Pelosi app.
It's awesome.
The FNG podcast is not responsible for any loss in your...
Yeah, this is in no way, shape, or form financial advice. I just told you to download an app. I didn't tell you to do any trades.
That's
okay,
hilarious.
I have I found this cool thread online. Oh, come on, where did I find that? My Google timed out, and it was so good.
Okay.
But the gist of the tip. Man,
What's the tip, Will?
just the tip. Only the tip. What was it? I had it on my phone and it disappeared. I'm so mad.
We got time, dude. You want to look it up and we'll just keep chattering for a little bit?
Yeah, we can thread it back in.
Okay. We got lots of time to, we don't have to quit at an hour either. We can keep going. We got so many viewers that are on here until the very end. Hanging on our every word is we do have, I don't know, what are we up to now? We're up to like 30, 40 subscribers, and
I think we're at 35.
35.
Wow,
so it's a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed doing this with you guys, and I'll tell you, I look forward to this every week, right? And it's such a good part of my day to be able to come in here and just hang out with you guys and kind of talk about the stuff that we would be talking about anyway. It's one of those things where as a writer, you're sitting at your desk, 6-8 hours a day, pecking away at your keyboard. And if you're doing that without any kind of, people around you, it does make it difficult to kind of stay sane. I think so. Having you guys around to just bounce ideas off of and to kind of talk me off the ledge sometimes when I am completely out of sorts, I certainly appreciate, and I hope you guys get something out of it too.
Okay,
well,
I found my
subscribers.
I remember my tip now, and that is when you're outlining your book, don't create the ending until you've actually written. Don't figure out the ending until you've actually figured out the rest of the book and started writing, because that's the only way that your ending is going to feel earned. Need your ending to feel earned. So write the ending when you come to it after the totality of your manuscript, so that way you know exactly how to thread in the ending.
Gotcha.
That's a great point. Because like I know how my book's going to end. I know the ending per se. But one thing, as you guys also know, when you do template your chapters out, the story changes. So sometimes that template that what you thought was going to be chapter 23 was already discussed in a different route.
Yeah.
So I know in my head how it's going to end, but I refuse to write it on paper yet because it's just, I don't want to limit it. And I want, like, that's a fantastic tip. Like, you literally, little mind blown. Good job, Will.
So you've got an outline.
Thank
You
you.
just don't have the actual specifics. Is that what you're saying?
You
Oh, no,
can
so
plan the ending.
I outline
You-
every chapter. Yeah.
You
Sorry,
can
Will.
you can plan the ending, but you don't want to piece it together until the totality of your project is already come into fruition. Because, like I said, you want it to seem earned. You want it to make logical sense. For example, Craig Martell, one of the techniques that he uses to write is he'll write the beginning and then he'll write the ending, and then he'll jump in the middle and try to connect the two. I
Okay.
cannot do that. I definitely
No,
cannot do that.
I become a template person for sure.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about that, Will, and I need to have my chapters templated. I may not hit those templates and my ideas may change, but I find it keeps me on my track of finishing the story. Plus, I have a great memory. It's just short. So sometimes I'll actually forget something. Like, has that ever happened to you where you wrote and then you realize, oh my God, I meant to put this in chapter 10 and you're now on chapter 18?
Oh, my memory is awesome. It just doesn't cooperate.
Reminds you at 2 a.m.
I put it in there. I just don't know how to find it now. Yeah, been there.
If I had an LM for my brain, that'd be great.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the
that's a
same
huge one
file
too.
saved in 6 different places because you can't remember where the hell you saved it.
Yeah.
Right?
Final dot whatever is typically the way it goes in my head. So
like it's like my wife, she took the dogs to the park today and I was doing something and I was like, well, how come you didn't tell me you were going? She goes, I did twice. I'm like, no, you didn't. But you know she did.
it's written on a Post-it note on your desk. How do you not know that I?
Oh, she says things. It's not her, it's me. I think we've all learned that lesson.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for being here today. I hope everyone got something out of this, and I hope you guys, if nothing else, put us on in the background and enjoy us yammering on in your ear while you're writing yourself. So, much enjoyment.
At dinner with your spouse.
Exactly. I mean, we are, for fine dining, you just put the phone up in the corner and you can watch us while you eat. So
Your wife will be so happy you did.
Yeah, that's right.
All this eye candy coming your way, you're welcome.
Yeah, if
we're not just here to help you write. We're here to help you
play
manage.
our video in a Chick-fil-A, they will give you 10% off. So I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
Only on Sundays.
Only on Sundays. Exactly.
Romantic ambiance.
All right, well, gents. Yeah, hey, thank you everyone for showing up, and do the like and subscribe and all the doobly-doo stuff down there in the bottom. We certainly enjoy being here, and we would enjoy some feedback from you guys too. So
yeah, leave
thanks,
comments,
everybody.
leave anything. We're so happy we're doing this.
Absolutely. Well, we'll catch you guys next week. So yeah.
Absolutely.